Hey crafters, today I'm going to show you how I etch with Citristrip on a powdered coated tumbler. This one I bought at Winners, so I just like to take everything out of it so that nothing's getting in the way. So the first thing I want to do is clean the area where I'm going to be putting the vinyl, just to make sure that we don't have any residue, so everything sticks well and it's nice and clean. I've already used my Cricut to cut out my template that I'm going to use as my pattern. So this one here, I've just used the word love, and then I'm going to peel off the backing, and just being careful. I've used white vinyl, so it's a little bit harder to see. So I'm just going to peel it off and make sure that everything that's supposed to remain on the transfer tape stays there. And I've made a holder so that I can hold my tumblers in place while I work. So I'm just going to take my vinyl, I'm going to eyeball it to see where I want it positioned on the tumbler, and then I'm going to lay it. I kind of stretch it as I put it on a little bit, starting with the right side, then the left side. And then you're just going to want to make sure that you smooth out your vinyl so that you don't have any little air pockets, especially around the letters, because otherwise the Citristrip will seep through. So when we've got that done, we're going to remove our transfer tape so that we can start the next process. Anything that's left purple is going to be etched and will be stainless steel. Anything else that you see white will end up having the lilac color left behind it. So I always like to add some tape to make sure that if I leak anywhere, it doesn't get. In hindsight, I should have added a little bit more tape around all of it just in case it runs. So this is what I use. I use the Citristrip. It's a stripping gel. It works really well. I like to pour it into a little container, and then I'll use a brush to brush it on. Now it's a little bit of a process. I could have used a bigger brush, but I am using a smaller brush just because some of the areas that I want to get into are small. So I go through a bit of a process. I kind of like tap. I don't rub it on or brush it on. I tap it on, but then I will also use my brush to kind of rub it around because I want to make sure that all the powder coat is being affected. I probably go a little bit overboard, but I'll just pat it down all over the tumbler or all over the stencil, making sure that all the little air bubbles or spots that don't look like they have any coverage, I make sure that it's all covered. Now this love word has got some very fine lines in it, so I make sure I go over those really well to make sure, because I want to make sure that when I'm stripping it off that all the powder coat comes off. So it's a bit of it takes, a few minutes to do this if I used a bigger brush, but like I said, I'm just going to stick to the smaller brush. That way for myself, I know that I'm getting all the little areas and I'm not missing anywhere. So I've just fast forwarded through this so that it doesn't take, I think all in all it took me about 5 minutes to put the Citristrip on. After I'm satisfied that I've completely covered everything in the stencil, I'm just going to let it sit. Now I let mine sit for about half an hour and it wasn't quite long enough, so I let it sit for another half hour. And you can just test it here I'm just using a scraper. I'm not pressing hard on it. I'm just scraping the surface powder coat to make sure it comes off. And then the other part where I started it, I forgot to tape. My camera wasn't on record. So you'll see I've got some of it done, but you're going to get the idea anyways, because the E isn't done yet. So I'm using this scraper that I'm using. I probably should use my little weeding tool, but I couldn't find it. So I am using the knife, but I'm not pressing hard because I don't want to etch the stainless steel. I'm just using it to kind of peel off the powder coat. The powder coat comes off kind of like if you're stripping paint, same kind of idea. So I just like to kind of lift it and pull it off. I do it underwater because I like to keep it clean as I go, and I'm just using a sanding sponge here to help me get the powder coat off. And I'm paying a special attention to the small little lines to make sure that the powder coat gets completely taken away. I go in the direction of the little tiny lines too, just to make sure. I want to make sure that all the edges are clean and not ragged, so I'll use my nail or the knife or whatever to make sure that it's nice and even. So just make sure I've got everything done, and you'll see that it kind of wipes off pretty easy. If I had left it a little bit longer, it probably would have come off easier still, but really this process doesn't take long. So you're just making sure that you've got all your little lines done, all washed off, and that your edges are nice and smooth. When you're happy you've got it all, then I just dry off all the water, make sure I don't have any pieces of the powder coat left hanging around, and then I'm going to peel off my tape and the vinyl, and then what I'm left with is the word love etched in, so you'll see the stainless steel behind it. So it's kind of fun. There's so many different things that you can use as a stencil. I'm doing this for an order that I have for Valentine's Day that somebody wanted. I'm just using my fingers to peel off. If my fingernails don't work, then I'll use my weeding tool, which I've lost, so I'm using my knife. I'm a little bit lazy to go looking for it, but it'll turn up as soon as I'm done this. And that's about it. I just dry it off, and there you have it. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask.